Hey, it's been a while since I've done a keyboard review, but I really like this one, and I think you'll like it too. I'm going to go as far as to say that if you're in Canada like myself, this is quite possibly the best gateway board into the mechanical keyboard hobby. Let's take a look. Keychron was established a few years ago in 2017, and despite being relatively new to the scene, they have already produced a number of different models, ranging from full-size boards all the way down to 60% boards. More recently, the brand has been highlighted by various tech influencers because of the release of their new Keychron Q1, probably their most premium board to date. But this video isn't about the Q1. Instead, I want to talk to you about the K6 and why I think you should still consider this board in 2021. Now at its base, the K6 is a solid performer. It sports multi-device Bluetooth pairing, which can be toggled with just a single key press. Its battery is large enough, allowing you to use it for weeks without having to charge. There's also RGB, which is easily again accessed through a single key, and the board supports hot swap, which means that you can sample and you can even use your favorite switches with it. But considering just those features alone, it's not quite yet an amazing board. I believe that its hidden strength is how customizable it is, combined with its relatively lower price point compared to other mechanical boards, and accessibility in historically less accessible markets. If you're new to the hobby and you go into the subreddit or you start asking around, quite often people will recommend things like the Tofu keyboard. I don't know too much about it myself, but I do know that it is quite pricey. At least you're looking at about a couple of $100 Canadian just for the metal aluminum frame that makes up the body of the board. That doesn't include the PCB, the switches, the keycaps, and any other maybe RGB if you decide to add that in. But with the Keychron K6, at least in Canada, you can get it for as low as $129, so about $130 Canadian plus tax. And that gets you the full board, wireless capabilities built in, battery, RGB, switches, keycaps, boom, you're ready to go. And at that entry price, I don't think there's any other board out there that can really compete with it. When I first got the board, I had the option of 3 switch types from Keychron. Either the clicky blues, the tactile browns, or the linear reds. In my case, I decided to go for the linear reds to try out a linear switch for the first time. The board that I got had the switches with them, and also came with the stock ABS shine-through keycaps. It wasn't too long after that I decided that I wanted to start playing around with modifying my board. I began by modifying the inside of the board by adding foam to create a denser and ideally a thockier sound with each keystroke. The foam that I used was sourced from the box of the keyboard itself, and I simply snipped it up using a pair of scissors so that it would fit into the grid below the board. I initially just did one layer. I screwed it back in, as you can see in this time lapse, and I tested it out. It wasn't too long after that I realized the foam wasn't really doing much, so I decided to redo the modification, this time adding an additional layer of foam, because the rationale behind it is that you want the foam to dampen the impact of each keystroke. So if the foam is not contacting the PCB and the bottom, then the foam is not absorbing the force, and therefore you don't get that denser, nicer sound profile. So that's what I did. It was also around this time that I decided to try and lube the switches, because these switches are hot swappable, you can pull them out, you can take them apart, and so that's what I did. I took the linear reds, and from what I read online and what I gathered, linears should be lubed for a more thocky experience. So you can see me right here trying to meander my way with this whole lube job. I used some of the G Lube from Glorious. I also bought that from One of Zero, so really appreciated that site. Everything was really accessible and easy, and I think that's a huge point to make. This next clip is just a quick sound test of everything that I'd done up to that point. After using this setup of the lubed Keychron Reds with the foam modded K6, I came to realize that the Reds were just a little too light for my liking. I did some research and I heard about the Gat Yellows and decided to purchase those. Naturally, more lubing ensued. I also just want to say how useful this particular graspy tool is. I call it the graspy pen because I don't know what it's called, but super, super useful. And finally, I picked up the Akko Neon PBT double shot keycaps. I really liked the look of the GMK laser, but I really did not like the look of the GMK laser price tag. So these were a much better alternative, much lower price, and still a very good product. So to recap, the K6 is a solid board in its stock form, but its availability, coupled with its price, its ease of customizability, all of that is what makes it such an excellent entry board in my opinion. And by no means am I asserting that this board should be compared to much higher end boards, that wouldn't be fair. Instead, I think that this is a great board for most people, especially those who want to try and dabble with modification, customization, and the things that make the hobby so fun and enjoyable. Now this board is cheaper than most gaming boards as well, such as those from Razer, like the Razer Black Widow, the Razer Huntsman, those from HyperX, I forget the names, and those, they range from about $120 to $200 and sport little to no possibility for any tinkering of any kind. Now in regards to downsides, I personally haven't encountered many, with the weak RGB on this being the only standout issue. Occasionally, there have been times where I've plugged the keyboard in and keystrokes wouldn't register, though that was quickly solved with a simple reboot of the board. And for the sake of thoroughness, I should also mention that I have heard and seen online that Keychron's customer service may be in need of improvement at the very least, with several angry comments and posts stating that their customer service is poor, or other words that mean the same, but I don't want to say. I haven't had to contact them yet. However, having seen these less favorable comments, I think it is worth mentioning to all of you so that you're aware. And following that tune, I've also seen several comments from people stating that their boards died not too long after purchase or simply didn't last very long. Anecdotally, and for what it's worth, I've had my board for nearly half a year now and haven't run into any major issues. Again, I just want to do my due diligence and report on the bigger picture. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you found the video helpful. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this board. Have you bought it? Would you consider it? Are there any other boards out there that you would recommend? And I hope that maybe you found this video even slightly informative. Well, anyways, until next time, bye-bye.